Hello everyone, welcome. I'm SpongeDart12. How are you doing today? Are you having a good day? I hope so. Today is kind of a cool day for me because I'm getting to talk about something that I thoroughly enjoy about video games, and that's video game design. I am a connoisseur of video game design. I actually went to college and got a game programming and development degree, so kind of have a little bit of an edge up on talking about game design and some of the tricks that game developers use. I love talking about these tips, these tricks, these clever ways that game developers will try to maximize the game and maximize hardware in order to get their game to run. Today we're going to be doing this on a game that is it's very popular back in 2010 when it came out. And that's Fallout New Vegas, as you can see right here. Yeah, I had to point to it. But today we're talking about Fallout New Vegas. Now, why did I choose Fallout New Vegas? One of the reasons is I really enjoy this game. I am a big fan of it. I have enjoyed it since 2010. I remember waiting in line to go pick this game up and playing all the DLC and all that good jazz back in 2010. Yes, 12 years ago. But the other reason I chose this is because this lets me do something that a lot of games still haven't gotten around to. Bethesda's really good at doing this for their games, and that's including a free cam mode. So all you have to do is go into your console commands and toggle a free camera, and you can actually explore a lot of the environment. You can do everything from unlocking terminals and doors. You can give yourself weapons, which we all know about, but one of the cool features when you're looking at game design is being able to use the free cam and clipping and a few other things. We can actually toggle a wireframe mode as well, so we can actually see where they design their wireframes for the game. But we're just going to use free cam today. I just want to take a look at the overall design of this world and see what the tricks that these developers use to make this happen. This game is very famous for having a cool little segment where people know that inside the strip there's walls inside the strip where you have to pass through certain spots. Originally, when the game was being developed, those walls were not supposed to be there. They were put in later in development because they were having issues with memory and the limitations of the memory. Not just being able to load stuff into the game, but being able to keep it in memory and access other parts of the world, the memory and stuff like that, where they were having those issues. So they decided instead to put the walls in and use those walls as a way to load and unload certain aspects of the game world and game design. So we're going to take a quick look at this stuff. First of all, I want to start by looking at what it looks like from outside the strip, because what you're going to find is outside the strip, that part inside the strip is not actually loaded. Let's take a look here. So in this game, if you want to toggle your free cam, jeez, I can't speak today. If you want to toggle your free cam, all you have to do is hit enter, or you have to put your little ampersand over here up at the top, go into the console commands and hit TFC and just hit enter, and then press that button again, and now we've activated our free cam. So if you're wondering, the controls for free cam are very simple. If you've ever used 3D software, you automatically know how to use the controls for your free cam. If you've used something like a Maya or maybe a Blender, or you've used the Unreal Engine or Unity game engine, you'll know that. But for those who don't know, you use the WASD keys to move around, you will use shift to make yourself move faster, and you use the mouse to look around. Boom. Very simple, very easy controls. So we're going to check real quick here on the other side of this wall. Now with the free cam, we can just walk right through the wall. Pretty cool, pretty easy. And as you can see, going through the wall, what normally when you go through this wall, it looks like it's awfully close, right? It looks like as soon as you go on the wall, you're on the strip. But as you can see here, you're not on the strip immediately. They're still like a distance away. So I don't know why they did this. They could have easily put those assets a little bit closer. I'm sure the idea is to try and make it feel larger, right? So a trick to do this, you would use a forced perspective. By pulling this farther away, it makes it seem like it's so much bigger than it actually is. But as you can see, all 4 casinos are represented here, as well as there's a... Interestingly enough, there is something in the middle of my screen here that's throwing me off. But we can see that there's Gamora, and it's actually rendered pretty well, all things considered. The flames from Gamora are not here, but it does have the texture work of the actual Gamora on the side of the building right here, which is crazy to me that they even put that there. There was no reason to even put that there, including the legs of the girls here. Surprised. They really only needed this part of the building, and they decided to keep the bottom part as well. We can see here from the top's the same thing, but you might notice that even though, let's see here, if we can get it moved a little bit closer, it's very slow still. You can see that we're right about level where the gate would be, where we would be from the gate, and they actually have these up in the air a little bit to add a little bit more size and scope to these buildings. Very common. We see this in all sorts of places around the world where they use forced perspective to make things look bigger or smaller to the human eye. This is no different. But as you can see, we've got the actual other casinos here. Now, what strikes me as odd, I can't understand this. Why did they put this here? Is this part of the whole asset? It's got to be, right? Because you wouldn't just include this part. You wouldn't include this part right here. You just want to include this part, the top part of the building, because again, you can't see over the walls. So it's interesting that it's there. Let's just put it that way. It's interesting that this part, this little dome here, is still here. I'm wondering if the light emitted is what they wanted to use. Maybe they were looking for somebody who might trick it out a little bit, just so that they could see a little bit extra. You know, we see certain things, certain aspects are always available in the game world, just so that we can see them from a distance. So I'm wondering what that's for. Interestingly enough, the back of the building is back here, but there's no lighting on the back of the building. It just looks like a parking garage. That is interesting. That's interesting. Let me toggle the free cam again, and let's go into... There we go. And we're going to go into the actual strip itself, because that's where a lot of the most famous, well-known part of this game, where they ruined it. Or ruined it. I said ruined it, and they didn't ruin it. They just added walls and kind of took away from it. It's so strange that they added the walls too, because even in the cutscene at the beginning of the game, before you even start, there's like a famous spot where you see a NCR Ranger shoot a bullet off, and it actually goes through the whole strip without these walls here. It just runs through the whole strip. Now, as you can see, I've come in here and I've killed a lot of the enemies, so that way I don't get shot at or have any issues going on. I don't suggest doing that unless you're crazy, but anyway, as you can see, we still got some of the buildings. Gamora here now has its flames going on, and the lights are actually properly bright. The sign is here, which is weird because the sign wasn't available when we were on the other side of the wall. So I don't know why the sign wasn't available, but the building was. The sign should have definitely been there. But no big deal there. I'm sure nobody cared that much. So let's see here. We can see that we can go through this gate, and we're gonna load into a new area. But I want to see something here. So let's check out what actually gets rendered in this game mode. So when they were doing this, you could see here's the wall that they used, and here's the 2 gates. So basically what happens is, if you don't know, you press the button and it basically loads you into another part of the world, and while it's doing that, in a very quick, snappy way, it deloads something else from memory. And that's part of the reason why these walls exist, is to delete other things from memory that are still in memory, so that it can keep this entire area loaded up. Now, why they didn't, they probably tried to load this area in while load the whole area in at once, and load everything in and render it. But they probably ran into a memory limitation. Remember, the Xbox 360 and PS3 only had about 512 megabytes of RAM. That is not a lot compared to today's computers at all. The Xbox, I think the Xbox Series X has like 16 gigs or 32 gigs of RAM. I can't even remember the actual number. It's but it is massive in comparison to this, and that's only in the less than 20 years. So knowing what we know about what the RAM was at the time, it obviously the limitations are just massive, right? But we can take a look in here, and as you can see, I crossed through the gate, and part of the level is actually loaded in, so much so that we can see characters like dead bodies from when I killed earlier are actually here. That is so interesting to me. In fact, if I toggle the collision, we can take the character and walk through the walls, and we can actually utilize these doors to go into these locations. Even though we didn't load this even though it's loaded into memory, we didn't go into this area as a primary area. We're still able to use stuff. But as you can see, like, bodies are loaded here properly. The doors are here. This whole building is here. So it's always questioned me why there was 3 gates instead of 2. It probably could have gotten away with 2 gates. Certainly would have made a lot of sense to maybe create some kind of gate system there. But as you can see, now we're able to look at the buildings more properly. We can see this building was not in the other area when we loaded from outside the gate into the strip. So this whole entire tram line here was not here beforehand. Which is interesting because I will say this, that tram is a pretty important part of the NCR and Kaiser's Legion storyline. You should be able to see it. It's pretty massive, but even here you can see how low rendered and low poly it is. It is absolutely crazy. And as we move around, you can see that the land is just kind of breaking itself up. But we can even see from here. Let's try to get above this building here. We can see that we can't even see the back of this building anymore. Now we just see these little lights and nothing else. In fact, that dome that I was talking about earlier, well, now we can actually see the entire building here. But you can see where the dome is. And again, the dome isn't really in a perfectly great spot to see over this building, let alone from the strip. So I don't know what they were thinking. Probably trying to load this stuff up into the game ahead of time. Load up those assets so that the game can't run. Doesn't struggle to load in these huge buildings. That would be my best guess without actually having worked on the team at all to see what was going on. Now, if we could do a little bit of research, if I could talk to somebody from there, I would love to, because I do think that it is a massive missed opportunity to figure out how to get this open. But that's just me. Anyway, you can see the tops is completely loaded, and we're on the other side of that gate over there, so you can see that even the lights are loaded. You couldn't even see the lights from here on this specific area. So why are the lights loaded in? I have no idea. The Lucky 38, we can actually see the sign from the other side of the gate, so it makes sense why that would be lit up. Again, the tops as well. The Ultralux does not have that. But we come over here, and this is the third area of the strip, and as you can see, now we're starting to see the rendering that the developers wanted to do. So they're rendering this stuff in. They're just putting in the assets, basically the plane, and some of the assets right near the door, so that it doesn't have to load everything into memory. But as you can see, like this building over here, low poly, low poly, low poly. textures are non-existent. These trees are just barely here. You know, it is important to look at it like that because that's exactly what's going on. So what they're doing is they're loading certain parts into memory, but they're loading them at such a low memory figure. It's only there so that they can access that and build and make the bigger object. So let's go back and let's see what happens. What should happen is I go through this gate. We're going to go through this gate, and now watch for a little bit of slowdown here. You're going to kind of see it a little bit. I don't know if you noticed it, but it's kind of like a little hesitation. Just a slight little hesitation. That hesitation, let's see here. Is there anything? Boxing times added. Yeah, woo. Street vendor right there. And we got military police I killed. Oh. Fuck that guy. I'll be honest with you. Fuck that guy. Alright, alright, so let's see here. Can we get over? We can't. Okay. But you can see now some of the low poly. Let's go over here real quick to this side. I enjoy playing this game so much. It's easy for me to get like distracted while playing because I thoroughly enjoy the game. But you can see now all those trees are now rendered in completely with what the texture is supposed to be, which is the actual palm fronds. So let's go in and toggle the free cam and see if we can actually see this building. And as you can see, now we get a little bit more detail on the monorail system, which is interesting again because this is not something you can see from where I'm at. It's really hard to see this whole monorail. My guess is that they're loading in a lot of this stuff just to make sure it's there when you go into buildings. So when I was learning how to design games, one of the things we really wanted to do was make sure that certain assets were already in the game file so that we could cut down on loading time. We're trying to cut down as much loading time. We don't want the game to run sluggish and run slow, have lots of loading times, all that kind of stuff. So what we'll do is we'll do techniques where we do something along the lines of this. Load something in. Even though you can't see it, you can go in this building and it'll be there. It'll already be loaded into into RAM, and we can just easily access it when we need to. And then we can destroy it later when we, for example, leave the strip. It takes everything out of memory. So that way the disk doesn't have to, in this case it was on disk. I'm playing on a hard drive now, but back at that time, especially on consoles, it was on disk. You'd have to read that memory again. So what this will allow us to do is everything when you're in the strip loads up much quicker. You know? So that way we are able to actually access files and assets, and you can actually play the game and not have to worry about every single time you open a building having a load time of like 2-3 minutes. So let's go over here. Let's check this out. So as you can see, when I said the stutter happened, what that stutter was loading all this, all the high-end poly and high-end textures into this area. And if we go backwards to the other area where we were, you can also see that that stuff's still in memory. But what's happened is now it's loaded this into memory. It's probably deleted something that wasn't needed anymore for the player to see or the player to interact with. My guess is that what's going on is it's deleted all of Freeside from RAM. You know, because that little Freeside area that I was at before I entered into the strip was still in RAM, readily accessible memory, so that we could actually get into there pretty quickly without having to worry about a long load time again. So now what we've done is we've actually gone through and taken it out of RAM. We can actually see this. One of the interesting parts is we can actually see this by turning off the collision and going to this area and loading this in and seeing the other parts. Let's see here. let's turn this off actually. And what we'll do is we will press the wrong button. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about right now. So, we're going to go backwards as if we were just playing the game normally. And we're just going to go through these doors. Oh, and we've got a guy freaking out. I have put it on God mode, and I broke the game. Awesome, love it. Broke the game. So, we're going to try that again. Alright, so. Sorry about that Elden Ring at the bottom there. I hadn't deleted that from this video feed. I cannot believe I just broke the game. This is why we don't do things. So, let's go back in. We're going to load into the strip here. On our last little save. So it still did the save, but for whatever reason it broke. Now I don't have mods running at the moment. And we're gonna enable God mode so we can run. Oh geez. These guys are still alive, huh? Oh wow, okay, cool. So we're gonna come here. Enter free side. You can see counting that down the time. That was probably about 20 seconds, right? About 20 seconds on the ooh, yeah, we can slow ourselves down. About 20 seconds or so on the loading. As you can see, it's very fast, very fluid, because it actually knows what is going on. So, and now they're finally leaving me alone. I have no idea why they came back to life. That's interesting. I wonder if the game is correcting itself. I think that's what happened. I think the game crashed and reloaded a lot of these assets back in, which is interesting. I didn't expect that to happen. We can see we got some stuff there. We're gonna go all the way down here, and what we're gonna do is, and you can kind of see some popping happening too, which, by the way, is something we try to avoid as game developers, but it's just too hard. You can't, you just cannot avoid popping. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna turn off these guys, TCAI and TCAI. We're gonna take off their combat because I don't want them to fight me. So we're over here. We're as far away from that strip door as possible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna toggle clipping, and we're gonna now turn off the collision. Right, so I want you to see exactly what I'm talking about. Now I can move at a normal pace, and you might be wondering why I didn't do this to begin with, because moving in the free cam is so much slower. Well, one of the problems is that I'm still a character, I'm still a player in the game. So if I go too high or too low, I enter into a zone where the character will actually reset back to the game world at its specific location. This is a failsafe that a lot of developers do. We'll put a trigger zone at the end of the entire area, which will, we hope we make it big enough so that if the player ever falls through the world, they'll get reset into the world instead of just falling to their demise. You may notice some games will actually not do this. They don't, either they don't need it or they don't look at it as something that they need to do. It's understandable why, but it is something that happens. So as you can see, we're gonna toggle collision here, or we're toggling collision here. You can actually see we can go through this door and activate the door from the other side, but you can see Freeside itself is not loaded into the game. So we've now kind of done something different. So we're gonna go in, and you can kind of see the load time's not terrible, but it was a little bit longer. And there was an extra hesitation because it had to delete something from memory. So what we can do, and again, this is pretty good. Oh, I'm all over crazy. We can go through all these walls and stuff and see. As you can see, we're on like crazy side of town over here. Now let me check something. I wonder if there is a gate over here, but we can go through the walls here, and you can go into the world and just kind of go crazy if you want. Nobody's gonna stop you really. But this is all that's loaded into memory right now is this, you know? So that's very interesting. And then over here we can see there's another gate. This gate is not part of the original Freeside. This is a new gate. And as you can see, it's not loaded in, so they must not have put this in the game. I wonder why it's still there. It's interesting that it's still there because you can't see the stuff. So I'm wondering if... I'm not wondering, I know what they're doing. It's just crazy to think that what they're doing is loading certain assets into the game world so that they can reduce load times. That's a normal thing. It's crazy to see it happen back in 2010 because that's something that even like recently it doesn't always happen as well, you know. Back then, you know, we're running off of a mechanical hard drive that 26 to 5200 RPMs, which is not a very fast hard drive at all compared to, you know, hard drives of today. Mechanical hard drives run at 78 RPMs, 7800 RPMs. Look at this. There's even a cavern in the ground. But today's modern mechanical hard drives run at 7800, and we both know, and we all know how important it was for the latest generation of consoles to run with a solid state drive. You know, my Xbox Series X runs with a 500 gigabyte. No, I think it's 1 terabyte. Yeah, it's 1 terabyte. A 1 terabyte solid state drive. The PlayStation 5 also has a 1 terabyte drive, and if you remember when the PlayStation 5 was shown off, Mark Cerny was very adamant about getting games to work with the solid state drive to completely reduce loading times to almost nothing, you know. So back in 2010, you know, when you're running at these low, it's crazy to see the techniques that you have to do to make sure that load times stay fairly good. And you can see some of the buildings rendered on the inside. It's crazy to think that this stuff is rendered in over here because you'd never be able to see the backsides of these buildings. You know, I know why it's done, because they have a whole asset. They don't want to create a separate asset just for one side of the building. But, again, crazy to see it done in the first place because you would not expect it. And we can talk to Old Ben. Old Ben is hurt over here. And let's see here. And again, we can cross through the wall and see that the Tops Casino, Ultralux, again, the Ultralux having, it even looks like you can see if you look closely, you can actually see the fire escapes on the side of the wall, on the side of the building, which is crazy to me. Absolutely insane that it's there. Let's see something real quick, though. I want to see how it's loading these buildings. Oh, sorry. How it's loading these buildings outside of Freeside and in the actual world. So you know that you can see the tops from a lot of places outside of the New Vegas area. Very famously, let me see something. We actually have a full map here, so I should be able to. We'll just go to we will go to Durable Duns. Oh, well, I'm considered falling. Interesting. Okay, well, oh, sorry. We're gonna turn off collision. Okay, so I'm not falling. We're gonna go to Durable Duns Sacked Caravan. This is a location for a Crimson Caravan mission. Later in the game, well, later. I mean, you can do it right away. This game is very open-ended on how it handles everything, which is cool. Definitely worth it. Van Graff guy over here. Alright, so let's locate the tops. should be northwest of here. We can see the free side location. We should be able to, and there's the tops over there. It's hidden behind stuff. So you can kind of see the bottom of the building, which is interesting because you shouldn't be able to see the bottom of the building from that perspective, but it kind of gives it this idea that it's larger than life. We're going to turn off, we're going to get closer, and we're going to turn off collision, and I want to go see what it looks like over there. It'd be kind of interesting to take a look at while we run over plants and other random things. Interestingly enough, I think this is where the thorn is, right? This is one of the entrances to the thorn. It's crazy because I think I might have broken the game because these cones are not lined up properly, which is interesting. You can see somebody running over there. And as we get closer, you can see the buildings are bigger, which is cool. So there's the monorail system, which is nice, that it's actually in the open world itself in the game. You can see the Ultralux right there, the tops, Gamora, and here's Lucky 38. All great that we can see them from here, which is not something you can say inside of Freeside as much. You know, this is more like you can see them out here. But as we get closer, we'll go through the wall real quick, and we will... I thought I could make it through there, but I couldn't. Let's toggle collision, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through this wall. So let's go through this wall and see. So you can see it's doing the exact same thing as it was before. The only thing that's new is that this monorail has now been completely rendered in. The tops has a little bit better texturing than it did when in Freeside. And you can see that this is still above and beyond the building. Gamora, still kind of the same deal. In fact, the buildings right here are now look like they are when you're inside the strip. And the Ultralux is interesting because look at this. The bottom part of the Ultralux has been rendered in. Now, we're gonna have to get on the other side. Unfortunately, this game does not do the rendering technique where once you've gone past something, you can't get on the other side without using console commands. But as you can see, you really can't see that part of the Ultralux. Maybe if I get far enough away, maybe I might be able to see it from a player's perspective, but I don't think I will be able to. And that's kind of like a big... Yeah, I can kind of see the top of the dome, but not even really able to see the top of the dome, you know? It was very faint. Let's see if we can go up here and see what we can see over there. Yeah, I can kind of see the top of the dome. I'm wondering if one of these buildings a little bit closer to the Ultralux will let me see into the Ultralux itself. Because if that's the case, then, you know, rendering it in the game would make total sense. But I don't even think there's a point where you would want to. Yeah, I'm trying to do this without using the console commands because I want to see if the player can actually see it. And I don't think you can. I think you can kind of see a little bit between here, but not really. Interesting. Interesting. So for them to do that, that is crazy. We can now follow the... TCL, thank you. I forgot to push enter. We can follow the monorail now all the way. We should be able to follow it to Camp McCarran. Let's see if it's actually rendered in. It is. So we're able to follow this, but it wants to push me off. So ideally, I should be able to follow this. Oh, interesting. Interesting. But I should be able to follow that all the way to Camp McCarran over here. And that is a very small monorail, by the way. I don't understand the practicality of that. That's not the developer's problem. That's purely That's purely like a design of the world issue. Like, it makes sense you would have a monorail system from an airport to the strip in real life as well, but it's a very small monorail system. You kind of feel like you would have that monorail system doing multiple things. Just saying. We're gonna turn off collision here so I can walk through walls. And we're gonna go over here, and as you can see the top of Camp McCarran, which is nice, but you can't see, they didn't render anything in there, which is really smart. That's how you do, this is how I was trained how to do this, which was load the parts that you can see, load the parts that are big, and load everything else in afterwards. You know, this is gonna take up some memory space anyway, but it's more visible to the player than something like the ground tier, the runways and everything. And we could see, let's see here. Do you fall through the top of the building? You don't fall through the top of the building, which is interesting. So they did not just render it, but they actually put collision on it. Ooh, interesting. So, and I'm falling. This is kind of cool too. You can see this is like the hub of their airport that they built for this game. So that's kind of fun. You can actually see the holes in the wall too. But cool. So, anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there. I've kind of discussed a little bit about what I wanted to talk about, which was the game design tips and tricks. I want to come back and start doing more of this. So if you guys are interested, please leave comments, leave likes down below. Let me know. Let me know what I can do to make it a little bit better. Maybe I can give you some more tips and tricks. What else do you guys want to know that we do? You know. But other than that, you guys have a great day and enjoy.